Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us at the Singapore Pavilion. We are starting our next program now on clearing the skies, financing and scaling sustainable aviation fuels in Asia. If I may invite our guests to take a seat, and without further ado, I will invite Mr. Gabriel Ho, Founder and Chief Sustainability Officer, Asia SAF Association, to share his presentation. Gabriel.
Hi. Thank you, Joanne, for a warm introduction, and really welcome to the Singapore Pavilion. Right. Really excited to be here, really to talk about SAF, and we have an esteemed panel today, experts from across the globe and here in Asia as well. But before we go into that, we're going to introduce a bit about what we're doing at ASAFA. Over there is our QR codes for our webpage and LinkedIn. Feel free to follow us. It's always a pleasure. We keep you up to date with the latest SAF news across Asia-Pacific. And I'll jump right in. We are, I guess, the first independent, neutral association that's bring together the whole industry to really drive the message that we need to decarbonize aviation as quickly as we can. We think SAF is the most important vehicle that we have to do this. We are now really deep in this whole ecosystem with events, working groups. We're going to launch a white paper you'll see later on. We have appearances here at COP30. Really glad to be here. But we believe there's so much to do for the sustainable aviation fuel space. I myself, I'm a chemical engineer, so I bring a bit of that technical knowledge. But co-founders like Fabrice, special mention our CEO, comes from Airbus. Dr. Dietmar Possel, he comes from BASF. We really want to bring together the whole ecosystem together to really build the whole Asia-Pacific SAF ecosystem. And we'll jump right in as well. Really want to showcase, it's a special day. And it's not really because we have 31 international members and partners. It's a special day for those in the know in the audience, right? Lenza just announced that they started up the world's first, alcohol or ethanol to jet plant, back in the USA, right? I think those know how significant this is. We've been waiting years and years and years, maybe 10, 15 years to really see this day happen. Really uncanny timing. It happened lunchtime today. We're so excited. Just check your LinkedIn and LenzaJet's achievement. But really, we really want more members and no big and no small. Everybody plays a part in this whole ecosystem over here. A special shout out to really Argus Media, who's really one of our gold members. It's a joint paper, ASAFA and Argus Media, to put together our first inaugural Asia-Pacific SAF Outlook 2025. It contains surveys, insights from their consulting team. We really think this will be a really useful document to guide policymakers, not only in Asia, but the rest of the world, to really figure out what Asia is doing, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities. Today, we deep dive into the panel as well, but really, really exciting to be here. And the easy way is to really, just a sneak preview, what we put together, some numbers, some facts that really, I guess, captures the voice of Asia, right? And we're really proud to showcase this here as well. But most importantly, you can download this on our website. We will continue to communicate new findings throughout the year. The year is coming to an end already, but there's so much we really want to explore today. I won't hold you any further. Let's welcome our panelists up on stage. Warm welcome to, let's say, one by one. Let's all come up on stage and take your seats now. Thank you. Jane and Simon, come on. Pedro, Gary. Okay. Keep one for me. Oh, I'm in the middle. So we're just getting started, right? Hope everyone's feeling cool. Come to the front if you can't see. Just don't be shy. We have a really esteemed panel. I'd like them to introduce themselves and their organizations quite quickly. But today the objective is really to really explore how international policy, how airline commitments, and really financially we can finance this transition through SAF. And we believe ICAO is really playing the leadership. It's a global framework in place with CORSIA and net zero targets. It's all really coming to fruition right now. So without further ado, I think let's send it over to the stage, and I'll just jump right in the interest of time. We also have some questions at the end for the audience here. So over to Jane. I think ICAO has really been guiding the global community on decarbonizing aviation. And I think particularly coming to Asia Pacific, how can ICAO scale up the development of a SAF and really deployment in Asia across the whole ecosystem? And particularly in terms of, I guess, policy guidance, or let's say just groundbreaking plans. Can you share a few insights and introduce about ICAO for the audiences here as well? Thank you.
Definitely. So my name is Jane Hupe. I'm the head of the program of the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, for environment. That includes all the spectrum, including our clean energy transition. So I think what's important to know is that we need standards when we deal with international aviation. And that's why you may find strange that an aviation organization has set standards for accountability of staff, for life cycle benefits, for all sorts of different things. We started in 2010 in dealing with that, and we need to work with standards, and we did not have global standards for that. So we had to produce our own. We went to many organizations,
From
but
nothing,
there were none.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so
from
we did our
scratch,
own.
really.
So that's very important for you to know. We have standards now for SAF, which is mostly what we are talking about here. We think that for Asia-Pacific, what we have to do more is to expand more the programs that we already have for capacity building. You know, the regulatory framework is there. Asia is using it. Thank you.
We tried.
But we have started the capacity building program that's called ASAFA, mostly for Africa. So ASAFA, we have volunteer funds, and then we worked giving hand in hand, hold hands with the states for them to start the SAF industry. You understand there's only a bunch of states that can produce fossil fuel in the world, but for the clean energy transition, we wanted our 193 states to be producing SAF. And some of them have to start. And that's why we started this ASAF program. We have now 11 feasibility studies for SAF already done. We are moving to 50, but now we are aiming at having many more SAF feasibility studies in Asia. And of course, the financing. So Finvest is for all. And we are hoping we can have very good projects for SAF coming from the Asian region to use Finvest. So Finvest, we have a hub with IRENA, where if you have a good project for SAF, for example, that respects the ICAO framework, of course, you can then have direct access to 14 financial institutions in one go. So this is very important. So we have many other initiatives like ASAFA that are really pushing and helping, outreach and advance that. But the announcement you just did, one of the pathways for us that will be very important, and that came out in every single study we did for feasibility. We have so many feedstocks that we already certified for sustainability that need the alcohol-to-jet process that LanzaTech just put back together today.
Yeah, definitely.
But we need that mature, because then the process being mature, the investments will go. Today, we see a lot of using cooking oil, EFA process, but not yet, those feedstocks that need the alcohol-to-jet. So having that mature, then that gives us the latitude to have more investments and more feedstocks that will go through the other paths. And I think with that, ASAFA can help very much in promoting all of that in Asia, because you have many feedstocks in Asia that could be used if we mature the other processes.
Precisely, yeah.
Thank you.
Really, this for Singaporeans out there, have to buy 4D. Yeah? Today's a special day for the SAF industry, the alcohol-to-jet announcement with LanzaTech. Okay, moving on a bit. Thank you for that, Jane. Pedro, we've been speaking on several panels now, and we represent IATA. And obviously, airlines are really the crucial bloodline of the whole world economy, right? Those days of the pandemic, no one's flying. This was quite miserable. But now, again, that everyone's flying all-time highs, I guess you can talk a bit more. What airlines are doing to really help facilitate the demand for SAF through, again, the off-take agreements? Could you share a bit more about your findings? And particularly in Asia as well, because we know that notable carriers are doing a lot in Asia. Not only just testing SAF, but using SAF, on an everyday basis. Yeah. Over to you.
Thank you, Gabriel, and it's a pleasure to be here representing the International Air Transport Association. Obviously, from our perspective, it's very much in line to what Jane just
I think it's a bit soft, maybe.
has arised, right? So raised in her intervention. Um, Airlines are today standing ready to invest in SAF, but the economics need to be out there. And when I say the economics need to be out there, there has to be through predictable long-term policies that de-risk the investments not only for the producers, but also for the consumers, which are going to be, at the end of the day, the airlines. So when we talk about investments in off-take agreements and where airlines are today really committed to do, is where we see an economic opportunity to invest in a product that will not put in risk the contributions that we bring to the economies, which means connectivity, jobs, and growth. And therefore, the main pillar that we look and very much aligned to what ICAO has do is promoting the standards. We need policies that are not only predictable, but also harmonized across every single jurisdictions that we operate. These policies need to follow the same sustainability standards that ICAO today has adopted. They need to be technology agnostic to ensure that we are using the local resources that will feed a global supply of SAF. And at the end of the day, that we are able to rely on tools such as a SAF accounting mechanism based on chain of custody, that there is an opportunity for every single airline in the world to access this scarce SAF market that we have today. And that's really where these opportunities on off-stakes we're seeing. Obviously, every time a project is announced, it takes 5 to 7 years to really reach maturity, if they reach that maturity. And therefore, from a standpoint of economics of airlines, it is also a risk to invest in these long-term off-take agreements, and therefore we need to ensure that there is a policy that will, support and take away or de-risk that investments that we're doing from our side.
Right. I think building transparency and trust. And Jane, please.
If you allow me to complement, just to give an idea, we have a goal that is in 5 years, not 2035, but 2030. Which is not far, but many more times, many more folds the quantities that we have on SAF last year. It's hard to abate. And today, the price for us on SAF is at least twice, but usually much more than twice. And we have established that by 2050 to get to net zero, just the producers will need $3.2 trillion for the production of the SAF that will be necessary. And now what we need, as IATA just mentioned, is make sure that we have policies, incentives, etc., for that to happen. So in ICAO, we were so concerned to see so many new initiatives that look at aviation taxation to do something else that's not to reduce the emissions from aviation, because we already have CORSIA, so we put a price on carbon. We already are doing the SAF. We need the money to reach net zero. So we are extremely concerned that if we don't have the necessary resources to do what we have to do, because now it's being taxed to do A, B, C, different things, then we will never be able to reach the goal that we set, number one. And second, that really have serious implications for us on CORSIA. And development of SAF is part of that. So a big concern from us would be also that, together with the policy, the pricing. Yeah? Thank you.
I think we will not be here without CORSIA. I mean, let's be honest. I think 5 years ago, 10 years ago, there would not even be a chance that SAF comes into play. I think some people remember Biojet. This was more like a science experiment, let's put it this way. It sounds really good. But really all thanks to CORSIA and really the work that I think everyone's doing collectively. It's like an orchestra, right? Everybody has to sing the same tune, play the same instruments at different times. I think we found like the momentum right now that we're seeing, right? But moving over to Simon, Hong Kong is a special place in my heart. I spent 8 years there, really learning about Hong Kong. But now that I think BEC is leading the SAF Coalition out of Hong Kong, could you share a bit more what your achievements are so far, and a bit about our organization?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Gabriel, and thank you for having me here. So I'm representing an organization called Business Environment Council based in Hong Kong. We're an independent, not-for-profit and corporate membership-based organization with over 300 members from different sectors. But when it comes to sustainable aviation fuel, we started a program which we call Hong Kong SAF Coalition. We are using this as a platform to engage different stakeholders from the SAF value chain, operating, having businesses in Hong Kong to try to promote the introduction of SAF, industry-related support policy, and to accelerate the deployment of SAF in Hong Kong, ensuring both its availability and also affordability, because I think Jane already mentioned there's a premium to use SAF, and we also have a question mark related to the availability and supply. And that's why we feel we need to have a platform in Hong Kong, bringing all the key players together to try to be a united voice, to talk to the government and do research to inform the policy development and recommendations, and so that we can advance and push forward the SAF agenda in Hong Kong and also in the region.
I think, in fact, Hong Kong is even bigger, right? Greater Delta region and...
Yes, absolutely. I think Hong Kong is just a starting point, but of course,
a big hub.
Hong Kong is well connected, just like Singapore and other major aviation hubs. So we are well connected, and we feel like on the subject matter of SAF, if Hong Kong is taking a leading position, actually, we can also influence in a positive way our peers and try to work together to make sure that everyone, all the airlines, they are doing the same thing. And with the critical mass, and chances are we will be able to influence supply, we can grow the demand, we can, cut down the costs and try to do better in terms of the environmental front and reduce emission. And for us, we are very concerned about Scope 3 emission, because like I said, we have more than 300 members and they are emitting a lot, and Scope 3 is a big challenge for them. And how to cut down emission from the business travel as a start, I think this is a very important and serious question that they are asking themselves.
I think the potential for Scope 3 voluntary consumption or driving demand could be significant. Really see Asia, right? You've seen the numbers.
Yeah? Absolutely. So I think this is just a start.
Yep.
And hopefully with Hong Kong, of course, Singapore and other major hubs, we're going to do something together.
Yeah, let's move from competition to cooperation, and really move it to Dr. Hari. We talk about $3.2 trillion. We need some funding, obviously. What do you think, your view, you've done the numbers crunched across whole transport system, right? Not just aviation. Where do you think we are right now? Can you share a bit of our insights?
Thank you very much. And let's just start with the fact that, so I'm representing an intergovernmental organization working with 69 member countries. Well, we do not make any regulation. We do not set standards. But what we hope to see ourselves is as a pre-negotiation platform that provides data and policy analysis. And as part of that role, for example, we have an MOU for years now with ICAO, where we work closely with ICAO. Just a couple of years ago, we provided a policy paper for ICAO General Assembly on scaling up sustainable fuels. So that's sort of the role where we see ourselves in this ecosystem of and we cover all modes of transport, so not only aviation. That's right. So that's, I think, important. I think that's interesting. First of all, from our perspective, SAF is crucial for aviation sector. Ensure economic growth, connectivity, and of course, decarbonization of aviation. I think it's hard not to disagree or agree. No, sorry, it's not hard not to disagree. I think that's, my Finnish language fails me now, English. We need credible long-term signals to guide investments. And that's the first your big question. Clear demand expectations, both for the industry, the aviation industry, but also suppliers, so that the markets can start investing at scale. We think policymakers, of course, have a crucial role here. And I think, Pedro, you mentioned the policy measures, and so I think here could be starting the question of what policy measures then are the most effective ones. In our view, we're looking at we have several different measures in place today, stick and carrots. And it's the incentives, it's also the regulatory frameworks, the standard requirements. I think what, in our view, when we look at the global policies at the moment, we do need a clearer and more harmonized sustainability framework, first of all. Different criteria for that, I think it risks confidence and fragments the supply chains.
Yep.
That's the first thing. Then we need the support mechanism to the policies as well. Reduce the risk, increase investment, increase early investors especially. Are we talking about R&D funds? Are we talking about taxes? controversial perhaps. We're talking about blending mandates, price floors adapted to different national circumstances. But the point I want to make, just to finalize this, is that what we need is coordination across the sector and across the field, because aviation is a global industry, global sector, and if we are fragmented approaches, this will lead to limited effectiveness.
It's going to be a tough one, right, if we don't work together, right? I'm going to ask you a bit about taxonomy. Do you think that's something that we want to build in, that investments like SAF plants can be part of the conversation? I know, maybe across the panel. Green taxonomy, right? Yeah.
Maybe if
because
if
it's the finance after all.
maybe if I can add to what was just said, I believe that we and through ICAO we've done a fantastic job in aligning a global harmonized framework, and particularly when it comes to the adoption of the sustainability criteria that we need. And what we need now is really states not to deviate when implementing these policies from this agreed framework. And why? Because aviation is international. We're all coming from various parts of the world, but we all took an airplane, and the airplane operates just one type of fuel, jet fuel, period. And we need that same criteria for SAF. We need the SAF that we blend in Belém to have the same sustainability criteria as the SAF that we are going to use in any part of the world in Asia. And to be interoperable, all these registries that are going to connect the SAF usage, and make sure that even the way that we account for the SAF is transparent enough, so we are able to avoid double counting. So when it comes to policies, that's what I meant when we said, de-risking and long-term policies that will facilitate the investments of SAF. And the second point is that, yes, today we have two sides of policies. One that is an incentive space that only works in markets where states really have the funds to incentivize and invest in new technologies. But if we go to emerging markets, it's not possible.
We're going to be left behind,
It is a high responsibility for the markets to invest. And then a mandate, we've seen the failures of mandates from the biofuel industry. And we are seeing it today in Europe, where today price of SAF is 2 times, as James was saying, but in Europe it's 5 times more expensive just because of the mandates. So we really don't have a one solution that says this is the best policy moving forward. These needs to be adopted to market specifics, and it needs to be market driven. So that's where we really need to be ready to support those governments in those decision-making policies.
Yeah, so we have passed 20 years basically trying to construct a framework, the baseline, until we got to the point that we were ready to put the goal. We did not put the goal, and then came on, okay, here's the goal. Now how are we going to get there? That doesn't exist for aviation. We have to do all the groundwork, and then we put the goal. That said, we are one of the very few sectors that have that.
It's very bottom up.
So there is no discussion on what are the policies or what. We know it's the mix and match. There's not one fits all, but the basis for those policies was clear. We have addressed taxes in the past, and our state said no. We did ask for a global ETS. Our state said no. They asked for CORSIA, which is an offsetting that mix reduction with SAF. So the very first global policy for SAF came through CORSIA, saying if it's a CORSIA eligible fuel, you can, airline, put your commitment, you can pay with eligible fuels, not only eligible units in the market. And for that, we had to put this big groundwork. For 1 ton, be 1 ton, be 1 ton, right? Then the accounting goes forward. Now, when on top of that, you start having all the other CO2 accountings and more, every time you put a tax on CO2 for aviation, you're double counting, double charging. That's what we were talking about. Yeah. And between mandates and incentives, a mix is not bad. A mix is not bad, and will not be a one-fits-all. But of course, you have to follow up. You cannot. A mandate is a goal, right? So if you're going to put a goal, do your groundwork first. You have to have the basis that you will be producing the volume of SAF that will allow people to get to the mandate. If you put a mandate with zero possibility of being reached, this is no good because it's going to be a disruption in the market. So groundwork is very important. Mandates are not bad or good, but they have to be grounded in a production that would allow compliance. That's my only big remark here. There's no black and white, and we will need everything. But for whatever we adopt has to be grounded on a plan that will make it possible. That's my only...
I think we have a softer way, not mandate, but target. So it's a bit leeway, but I know Simon chime in.
I agree entirely with you, Jane. And this is exactly what's happening in Hong Kong right now, because we started this conversation a few years ago, but for the government, actually it's in the last two policy addresses that they specifically mentioned, okay, now we are going to explore SAF, we are going to look into supplies and demand, we're going to develop the ecosystem, but they haven't yet decided on whether they should go for a mandate or set a clear target, or whether there will be a levy system or some other forms or shape in terms of how to manage the whole mechanism. But what they are now agreeing to do is, number one, try to support a local SAF supplier to make sure that they will build another facility, make sure that there will be supply, and then grow the entire ecosystem, including a blending facility that will be constructed
in Hong Kong, right?
In Hong Kong,
yeah.
yes. And then also thinking about, okay, should we start setting a small target just to indicate the policy direction? Now, they're not going quickly and directly to 5 or 10%. We're talking about 1 to 2% as a start because, as Jane mentioned, the other infrastructure is not ready yet. So it takes time to get the groundwork done when we are then ready for a much more ambitious target. So that's the approach Hong Kong is taking right now. And we believe with the coalition and the upstream and downstream stakeholders, this is very clear policy direction. It's good enough for them to start investing and start all the planning. So, for me, I would say, okay, it's better to have a much more ambitious target. But thinking about, okay, now, are we ready for that? Maybe the government is taking the right approach.
I think many of the governments, including Japan, they've really worked on this for many years now. 2030 targets for SAF, they really galvanized the whole industry to come together with METI and JCAP. That's really quite bottom up, right? That's a very realistic approach. But I think we're coming back to Asia a bit as well. Feedstocks is always key. There are many studies out there, like from various organizations about the potential. IATA has released one as well. All these feedstocks are really inside Asia-Pacific. And how can we unlock it based on really COP30's guidance? Because there's things like LCA sustainability, right? How much quantities are out there, right? Maybe Jane, do you have some, preview to this?
So, yeah.
Not just use cooking oil, yeah?
I know, but look, if you go now to our website in ICAO, there are some publications that already will show you the 49 feedstocks that are already certified for sustainability, many of which available in Asia, of course. And then comes the processes. But most important, we have what we call the ICAO SAF trackers. Take a look, because we track the policies, we track the feedstocks, we track the processes, we track the number of investments, the number of refineries. So when we are talking about how to incentivize, so Singapore, I don't need to say Singapore was the first big refinery for SAF that we had in place.
1 million tons.
But it's not like this, the production in a refinery. It's like this. Nah? You go from 1 million to 2 million to 4 million. It's steps. It's not a line. So when we see, can we reach, for example, the 5% goal in 2030 for international aviation? If we see all the announcements, discount the ones that already went aqua because it's a new market, we say yes. So we have to make sure that we now really invest in implementation. The message from the last assembly was accelerate. So can you do it in Asia? Yes. How do we accelerate? Well, number one, the capacity building, as I said. Some of the Asian states, they have to wake up. They will not be all producing the SAF now, but they can be ready with the feedstocks to be produced elsewhere first. We are looking into book and claim, but in a way that it will not do what we have for fossil fuel, concentrate everything here, here, and here. No, it has to be a book and claim that allows the development of the SAF everywhere in the world. That was the call for our assembly. Financing shall be there, and seriously, we have seen so many new industries coming in, and all of them had so much incentive. On aviation, we are seeing an expectation that the airlines have to do offtake agreements for those industries to be nascent. Hey, governments, wake up. This is a new industry, a promising one, but it will need the support you had for aeolic, for photovoltaic, for, you know, it's a new industry. It has to mature, and until it goes for maturation, we will need money, incentives to get there. But that generates jobs, that generates development, that generates, so let's look at the big picture. And that's what we are doing now, is a wake-up call, because this is not just emissions reductions, this is development. Okay. And that's why we need money in aviation for development. Thank you.
Well, don't quote me. I think flying is more important than AI, but okay, some might disagree. You touched on a really good point about offtake agreements, right? We've seen those numbers. IATA has published those. Can you share a bit about how is IATA really like putting together matchmaking and all that's happening behind the scenes to make sure that let's say, industry is steadily growing, right? Pedro.
Yeah, so, I mean, in terms of offtake, we track how many airlines today have already these long-term agreements. And the last report that we published out of our World Sustainability Symposium in Hong Kong in October, we have about 100 and some, almost 180 offtake agreements that airlines have done. The way that we're facilitating this for airlines, we've created tools, and one of them is what we call the SAF Matchmaker. And it's kind of like a dating app where producers go online and are able to offer to airlines what product they have available in the market, free of charge. There's no charge. It's free for producers and for airlines. And the airline then generates the demand from the point where the product is available, and all of a sudden, you create a match. So the SAF Matchmaker today is facilitating the process by which airlines and producers can connect to generate those offtake agreements.
How many airlines are in it now? Do you have a good number?
Within the SAF Matchmaker, we have about 60 airlines. Okay. It was just launched
but the big names, right?
In June. Actually, we presented it during the Climate Week of ICAO, and we have about 60 airlines that are participating. Which is significant, about 100 and something producers that are available in the market, including distributors as well, because obviously it has to take into consideration the supply chain. But it is becoming a tool that facilitates this trade, and that airlines are able to connect. And the second solution that we brought to the market, it's what we called CATO, which is GIFT. And CATO is a SAF registry that took 2.5 years to put together. On the work that we wanted to align the methodologies that every single independent registry had with also the methodology that ICAO is developing in this regard. And CATO is a SAF registry that doesn't not only allow to connect the producers, the airlines, and the customer, but also for transparency, the governments, to track what really is going on in the production of SAF, and to ensure that there is a transparent marketplace where these accounting reductions are happening.
Just for the audience to understand, right now there is so many book and claims out there, no? But there is not a single place, and that's where ICAO gets very nervous, that we can track if something was not book and claim here, right? We need a center. For us, it's standard, the central registry. For Corsia, we have the central registry. We have 99% compliance on the emissions from airlines to be reported to us every single year. They are third-party verified. They are verified by their states. They come to ICAO. I say it without any doubt. It's the best MRV for a sector worldwide. And I say that without no doubt here. Because we verified with third parties every single step, and we have 99% compliance. We need to do something similar for the SAF. We are looking into the Corsia to see how we can do something beyond Corsia, possibly just to track the SAF. Because in Corsia, we only track the SAF that is to compensate the emissions from the airlines, not the whole thing. And we need this whole thing to say how we are going to reach our goal, right? But the double claiming, double counting, everything is a big concern for us and for the airlines, of course, because we don't want someone to say, oh, I'm compliant here, 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 and 5 times the number. That's not okay. So we are working very hard now to put one kind of register that will follow the SAF, that will give that information as transparently as we have for the CCR on Corsia. But that will be vital for us, for the prices, for the volumes, for the incentives, for everything. Thank you.
And the interoperability. So every single registry be able to
talk
speak to each other.
Yeah. I think the aviation industry is so hard on itself, really, because safety is number one, right? And to get to the highest level of safety, like anywhere in the world, planes are safe and flawless almost. I think that's the same kind of like commitment, right? And that's why it's so important to really achieve the highest level of sustainability as well, right, across all industries. But stepping a bit back to Dr. Hari, on a system levels approach, because we get to see everything moving in different speeds, different progress, and I think we're really fighting even for feedstocks and resources and financing. Where do you think aviation should be, right? Should we, as a policymaker, should you give more used cooking oil to aviation instead of shipping? Do you manage to kind of look at it this way?
I love the question, and it's pretty much the hardest question I can have.
Obviously, right? You're on my panel.
I'm representing 69 countries, and you can imagine you're representing 190 plus countries. So it's always a hard question when you say, what is the right answer to X, Y, and Z? I think what we can look at is what is happening around the world, and that then draw conclusions from that. Just want to say that I think here, as well as in Jane, you mentioned the book and claim, the fragmentation, you mentioned the policies, the fragmentation, that all limits the efficiency. I just go back to that as global industry. If we have different approaches in different parts of the world, this will reduce efficiency of the system. So I think that is the first thing. Well, we have looked at the competing sectoral demand at the ITF, actually looking at where the new energy sources should or could be going. Controversial, yes. What we tried to do was to look at the sort of the marginal abatement cost of different solution technologies, and the fact is we have limited resources available, and we need to make sure that they go to the places where they promote efficiency and that are delivering the biggest impact at the lowest cost. Based on the analysis we've done at the global level, I think we are looking at saying that, because you also know there's a discussion between the transport sector itself, should we use biofuel, e-fuels in road freight, railway, where should we use all these new sources? Really? And based on our data, it would suggest that the biofuels and e-fuels should be left for the hard to electrify sectors, if you wish, so maritime aviation. And that's sort of the high-level message. Of course, then we come to the difficult question, is that you have the regional specificities and availabilities of resources in different countries, different regions, that may make this solution different. But but then we need to look at also, it's not only transport, it's the industry. It's the other parts of the other sectors that also need these limited resources. So it is a very hard question. I know ICAO has looked at this, and you all have looked at into the same question. And the population will be growing, the demand will be growing for food stocks, the demand will grow for arable land. So there's this balance that we just need to find somewhere.
All right. I think you want to chime in. Yep.
I mean, I want to bring something to the perspective when it comes to hard to abate sectors. In aviation, jet fuel demand or production today is concentrated in 23 countries worldwide that produce 95% of the total jet fuel demand. And for the past 3.5 years, we've seen how geopolitics really can disrupt the supply chain of jet fuel. And when it comes to the production of sustainable aviation fuel, and this is to a point that Jane made before, we have an opportunity in front of us, governments, to produce SAF and focus on energy security and energy independence and not depend out of these 23 countries. And SAF is not only for commercial aviation. Military aviation is doing a lot of testing today to use SAF as well. And it is a possibility to even for private aviation. So everyone can be using SAF as an energy independent product, and you don't need to depend on international market pricing or geopolitics. And I mean, we all thought that the US was really going to be ramping up SAF production by 2030, and the changes in the current administration are really looking that it might change the market dynamics, and these might even shift towards other developing nations such as Brazil, such as in Asia, where there's a lot of feedstock available and the opportunity to produce. So that's why every single country needs to look at solutions internally of how we need to produce it. And then as it was just mentioned, then what are the real sectors that really need it? Knowing that AI is really ramping up and the demand for energy is increasing rapidly, and we are all going to need, a lot of energy produced in the next 5 years. But we need to really focus on the sectors that don't have a solution for these next 5 years if we want to meet the goals that have been established, not only at ICAO, but also by this conference. And we're here discussing these goals and solutions, and we really need to ensure that we're able to progress in these negotiations.
Explains the air conditioning, or the lack of it.
No, but it is very important that we understand that for some sectors, for some activities, you can have so many options, right? Electric, hydrogen. Well, road has all the possibilities, right? Unfortunately, I cannot take off for a long haul, a long distance with electric. We already can do it in the short haul. In our side event 2 days ago, we had a big talk about hydrogen, and we are going to have this climate impulse flight to advance hydrogen use, etc. But that's for much longer. So right now, what we need is liquid fuels. We need sustainable liquid fuels, lower carbon liquid fuels, anything that would be a liquid fuel that I can put in the aircraft that can take me across the ocean safely and reduces emissions. Every bit counts. So we are not only looking at something that gives the highest. No, every bit counts. So co-processing is important for us. Okay, so right now, with one pathway, we can do 5% of co-processing. With another one, we can put up to 15. With Trackling, we can put up to 15% in co-processing. That's very important. We are looking into 100% SAF aircraft. That will double our possibility. But make no mistake, first we need the production of SAF.
All right.
We have to ramp the production. And for that, we need incentive. We need the processes ready. We need the market price. We really have to look into that. Is it possible? Then people look at it. It's happening. Look at the trackers. Every day is a new announcement. Every day a new initiative. We are producing SAF in Kenya. We are producing SAF in Africa. We can do that. Brazil has a super potential to do that too. Singapore is producing SAF every single day and distributing it. We have so many nice experiences already to pilot.
It's really positive because all the governments we talk to, they're so excited about SAF,
and
right?
The banks.
And how to activate. Of course,
now the banks, because we have the goal, because we have the framework, because we have
confidence.
The environment for the investment is there. We have to keep it. I'll just say one little thing. There is I'm almost compliant with the standard. Either you are compliant or you're not compliant. And if you're not compliant, then you cannot do it. This half compliance, I deviate from the ICAO standard just a little bit. There's not a deviation of a little bit from a standard. It's a standard. You have to comply 100% if it's a standard. So I really urge all states, when they are putting their policies together, this is a sector that has already agreed it internationally. If you're doing your national one, do not deviate. That only creates complications for the market of your product, for the connection with the other regions, for ramping the volume, for the airlines to operate, it doesn't help. So that's a big call from us in
Okay,
ICAO,
yep.
because people say, oh, we need to harmonize. No, we don't. States should not deviate. We already did the harmonization. It took us 20 years to do so. But now we cannot afford these little deviations. They are really, impacting the way we are allowing our states to do business, to ramp the volume, et cetera, et cetera. So
All right.
a big call for states, do not
We hear
deviate,
you.
even
Yeah,
if
we hear
it's a
you.
little bit.
Right. So really coming back, this few days we've really seen emerging themes about SAF, sustainability, carbon markets, green financing. I know Singapore's done so much already. I think that those are the more experts out there in the crowd. But really come back to a bit of Hong Kong as well. Do you see, again, what's happening with the green financing, the state of investments? Could you share a bit more?
Yeah, of course. I think, it's a very important sharing from the other panelists regarding what more the government can do. But at the same time, at the corporate level, if I may add, actually they are also under a lot of pressure to deliver, to decarbonize. So for them, they cannot just wait for the government. They will take whatever is available there to try to struck their own deal, to form new partnerships. I've got some examples, from Hong Kong, like HSBC, the biggest bank in Hong Kong, because they have their own net zero transition plan. So they buy from Ecosaris, the second largest, SAF producers in the world, and they use it on Cathay Pacific and Cathay cargo flights.
Okay.
So it's an initiative led by the business sector because they see the need to decarbonize, to try to comply and to follow the target they have set for themselves. But at the same time, I think giving good examples to their peers, this is possible. And I think, there are many, many deals today and tomorrow having new announcements saying, okay, these 3 or 4 parties are coming together with SAF deals and they're going to achieve this and that. I think this is very healthy. This is very encouraging. Now, of course, when we have more deals like this, then back to the questions, what about harmonization? What about book and claim and other infrastructure? How to ramp up production and demand and so on and so forth. So I think I would say everything is coming together.
There's
But we
momentum,
need
yeah.
to be more focused on the key things like compliance, like book and claim system. This is very important. But we shouldn't stop encouraging the corporates to try to do more whenever they have the possibility. And I think Hong Kong, positioning ourselves as a financial hub, where we have the know-how, we have the expertise to try to unlock all these capitals and potentials.
The entrepreneurs, yeah?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And also innovation. Innovation is not just about technology. It's about ideas as well. How you come up with some new ideas so that it works and help everyone to achieve what they have set for themselves.
You can feel the passion in SAF, right, from the
Of
panel,
course,
right?
yes.
So really turn the stage to you guys and the audiences. There are questions. There's a bit of time left. This is your rare chance to really reach out to experts here. Can you get a microphone for gentleman on the right? Thank you. Thanks, Joanne.
Thank you. Haruhiko, I'm from Japan. I invest in renewable energy.
Wonderful.
If I understood the discussion correctly, I think there was a lot of discussion about bio-SAF, I guess. But what about, can you elaborate on eSAF, especially on pricing maybe? Because I think within a month or so, in the past month or so, HIF Global, a company in Chile, I think announced that they can match Jet A prices by 2027-ish? Well, it's just an announcement. There could be a lot of things going on, but can you elaborate if possible? Thank you.
I mean, I think we won't be able to announce on a specific project, but what we could say about eSAF is, there is a technology out there, but it still needs to be matured. And with eSAF, you need 2 fundamental feedstocks. You need hydrogen and you need carbon. And today, there is a problem of scalability and also the price of the technology. So eSAF today, it is very expensive to produce. It needs to be, make business sense to produce it. The reason why it's in Chile, it's because of the market conditions that you can really produce a hydrogen at a very minimum cost because you always have a constant win where the project is developed. But at a global scale, it still needs to be more developed in terms of scalability. And being one of the most expensive technology, it's really, it doesn't make a lot of sense for production
I
today.
think just this year to add as well, Singapore's launched its first so-called ESAF plant in Jurong Island. There's a collaboration between ASAFA and IHI, actually out of Japan. I think it produces so-called, again, the ESAF they want and the synthetic mixture. It's about 5 kgs a day. It can be done, right? And they're trying to really improve the catalyst, the designs. There's a lot of work going on. It's quite fascinating. But the idea is really, I think we're still early days to really scale up to the likes of, the $2,000 barrier, right? We're talking about.
And I'm going to correct myself. It's actually not hydrogen. It's green hydrogen. And for
low
and-
carbon. I guess.
And it's a big difference because for green hydrogen, you depend on renewable energy. And today we haven't reached the goal of really passing the 50% renewable energy production globally, because now there's more demand of energy given the revolution of AI. And for the production of e-fuels, you really need to rely a lot of green hydrogen input, almost 4 times. I think we run a study, I would think it was 2022, that just to supply Charles de Gaulle with ESAF, we needed to install 90 nuclear plants in France for just one airport. And that was a study done by the University of one of university in London, just focusing on the impact that green hydrogen, e-fuels could have. So definitely there's a
we
problem
do a
with
big crowd.
scalability.
Are there any more questions? I see this lady, please. Yeah, we give them a chance.
Thank you. My name is
Thank you.
Madam McLean. I am the Secretary General of the Zero Emission Ship Technology Association, so I'm coming from the maritime industry. We've got consultative status at the International Maritime Organization. So we're working on the fuel life cycle analysis, global fuel standard, all of that right now. And really, I've got a question for you, ICAO. So one of the things we're really struggling with is the verifiability of those supply chains. So it's everything from a land use change for biofuels that we're going to be looking at, and then the question of e-fuels. Where did that carbon molecule come from that you stuck back onto that hydrogen? And did you really stick a carbon molecule onto that hydrogen? So my question for you, one of the things that our association is looking at using blockchain for immutable ledger-based systems of communication. And just wondering how you do that. How is ICAO doing that?
So in the ICAO framework, we'll have to explain a little bit more. We not only have the framework that has specific methodologies for doing all of that, but we do certify the certification bodies. So we have now 3 certification bodies only in the world, international ones, they operate in the entire world. But they have to be able to do the certification of the fuels. So in their protocol, so RBS, for example.
RBS, ICC.
RBS, for example, is one of the certified ones. But they have to pass the criteria that we have for a certification scheme to certify a feedstock for sustainability. So ICAO doesn't go and certify the fuels anywhere. What we do, we have that certification for the feedstock. It can be a certification for the feedstock process, can be a certification of the fuel at the end of the tank. Depends on what you are doing, the certification. But we have processes and certified bodies to do that work. That's what they do. And that's what they do for any activity, including for aviation. So that's how the framework exists.
Okay,
Everything third-party certified, but the people to do the certification have to be certified by us.
All right, shall we do one more question from the audience? Maybe one more from the back. Questions? Yeah, gentleman on my left, sorry. Could I get the mic for, yeah. Thank you. Where are you from?
There. Travis from the UK, work for a company called Evident. We build registries, so very interested in that topic. Question for you, Jane. On this sort of meta registry that you were describing, is that work that you've already committed to? And is it a registry that you're building yourself? I just want to flag one concern is that I think it's really important that per asset class across environmental commodities, there is some kind of interoperability between all these meta registries, because we're having registries for low carbon marine fuels now, SAF, we have registries for RECs as well all around the world. How do we ensure that there's interoperability between all these different asset classes?
Yes,
Lot to unpack there, but...
So very quickly, we will not be doing that cross-check in ICAO. What we will do in ICAO, and we are not building this registry for SAF now. We are discussing the method to connect existing registers, the difference between those registries, etc., to put everything under one umbrella to ensure that, number one, SAF is SAF. We have a definition from SAF. So if that definition is not used and you say, I have SAF, doesn't matter. It's not accounted. Number two, that you don't count the double. But we will use the same system as we are using for our CCR. What is it? Anyone can check. It's transparent. So if another sector now has a registry, wants to check if it will be transparently available publicly. That's what we do. You see? So with that, we will do our contribution in ensuring that if it's SAF, we want to do, we will ensure that's not double counted, because if something comes is already counted, we'll make beep, beep, beep. So, and after, everybody else can check if that specific request was not put elsewhere in a different process, right? So that's the aim. Right now, IATA is starting such a registry. We are talking with the airlines, and we believe that has to be an effort that encompasses ICAO with states, IATA with the airlines, because those are the two main points where this transparency will need to happen so that we ensure the double counting. But that's a project right now. We are not building yet the system. We do have the CCR. We, of course, the first thing our state said, Jane, the CCR is such a robust process. Everything has to be certified, verified, Don't do anything that would be a duplication of things states already do. So we are trying to build upon the registries we already have that are very good to go beyond.
Just to specify CCR, because we in aviation, we love to use jargonism. It's the CORSIA Central Registry, and it has been in place since the adoption of CORSIA, and that's where, and it covers all international aviation. Okay. So what Jane just explained is that whatever new system, since SAF is a CORSIA eligible fuel, it needs to be connected to this CCR or CORSIA Central.
Okay, it's time to wrap up, right? So just across the line, one thing you like to do, see happen to make SAF the mainstream fuel for Asia-Pacific. Please, who wants to go first? Where's the mic?
I can. So let me inspire you a little bit, if I may. The traffic in Asia is where we are seeing the big boom. It will be a flying future. If you have any doubt, don't. It will be a flying future. Personally, UAVs, you have your own flying thing, or collectively in an airplane, in an air spaceship, whatever. And what we want to do is to have a sustainable future that is, for aviation, really sustainable. And in Asia, it's the biggest potential for the traffic to grow, and that's where we are really, really betting on that sustainable aviation future. So we want to look at Asia to develop the sustainable aviation future.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Over to you.
Well, I think what I would say is, even don't take it for granted that everyone understands what's SAF. Even though we have a big cluster of people here, knowing more than the average people. But actually, a lot of people, especially including the traveling public, even corporate travelers, they have no idea what is SAF and why that's related.
My dad doesn't know what's SAF.
Yeah, so, do more education, do more promotion, raise awareness so that we all know this is related to ourselves, individuals. so that we can play a part and help to promote the uptake of SAF. I think it's very important.
Thank you. Pedro?
So I really think that the question here is not whether aviation will be able to decarbonize, but how fast we can actually get there. And so every new breakthrough in SAF, any new policy, any new incentives, it's one step further that will help us achieve those goals. So the challenge here into the future is, yes, we want to grow, but we want to grow as clean and sustainable as possible.
And faster.
And
Last
faster.
but not least.
Wow, it's tough. I feel always very humbled when I'm sitting here with my colleagues from aviation sector. They have the details, they have the data, they have all the combined knowledge here. And I'm coming from an organization that looks everything a bit. But I just want to maybe one point, and I think it was touched upon on several times, the uncertainties, the geopolitics, the knowledge and all that. What we have in other sectors as well, we've been looking at very much moving away from predict and provide approach to decide and provide. And that's what we're calling vision-led transport planning. And so we don't look at the past trends and try to guess what the future will look like. I'll go wrong. We want to see what future we want to have, and then we build our system, we build our policies to reach to that goal and that vision. And I think here for SAF, talking to SAF, listening, there's the vision, there's the plan. So it's now time to then start building on that. And it's a final thing about innovation you mentioned. I think on that, innovation in governance is hugely needed. And also the capacity building, not only individuals, but it's the governments also who need to understand what are we regulating here? What policies we're waiting for? What is SAF in the first place?
Ladies and gentlemen, all good things have to come to an end. So let's have a round of applause for our distinguished panelists. Thank you. And keep flying. Thank you. Let's do a picture before we wrap up.